Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Shalom. I'm so glad being here at this particular time. My name is Pauline Mwarabu. Pauline is a mother. I'm a mother of 4 biological children and so many spiritual children. I am also a farmer. I do farming. I love farming. I am a pastor at JCC Rongai, and together with my husband, Apostle Mwarabu, we take the role of lead pastors of the church. And in so doing also, I also tent make. I believe in shepherding and tent making. So career-wise, I am a professional administrator, having worked in government agencies, and I have about 10 or so to 15 years experience in administration. JCC Rongai, we are celebrating 10 years of God's faithfulness. And when I reflect back to the beginning of the church, I just want to give God all the glory. It wasn't easy, especially for me, maybe to just give a background. I never saw myself being a pastor. I have always run away from pastoring. And I remember even when I met my husband, I think it was in 1998, and one of the things I made him aware is that I never wanted to get married to a pastor. I came from a background of committed Christians. My parents, especially my dad, he was a minister wherever I was going to church, and I felt like I didn't want to identify myself with that kind of a future. And therefore, I ensured that the person I dated was a professional person. So I got married to a professional accountant. And I never saw the issue of pastoring and the issue of church coming. But I remember very well in 2014, towards the end of 2014, December, after the world explosion, and my husband came back renewed with a new vision, and he was talking about being in the ministry and all that. Of course, I didn't take it very serious, because we had a promise that none of us is going to become a pastor. But now that is water under the bridge. So in 2015, January, he told me of a vision he had in 1998, where God was calling him to the ministry. And it was a long journey towards starting a ministry. I would just describe it a 21st century Jonah kind of a calling. So we tried running away from the calling, both of us, and when my husband could not run any further, it's when he gave in to God's calling over his life. So that January, he told me of his intention in getting to the ministry, of which it was not easy from my side, but I felt, okay, if this is the life that he wanted, then it was important for me to, just back him up. And as always, I always say that nobody is a witness to God calling another person. You can always just believe when they say that God has called them. So we came to Rongai. It's a place that I had not been. It was not love at first sight. This is not a town I loved from the word go, because where we were coming from, an upmarket area, a place that was highly organized, tarmac to your house, even inside the estates. And I was coming to Rongai, with vumbi ya Rongai and traffic jam and all that. But at the beginning, I was not very active in the church, because at the same time I was attending 4 months training in paramilitary. But when we came to Rongai, we looked for a place. It was not, again, a place that would be identified with us. And the church began. It was such a glorious moment for us, a humble beginning. The church structure was just mabati and, earth floor, nothing much. But looking back, we can now say we have seen the faithfulness of God. Wow, the impact that the ministry has had to us as a family and to the community we are serving, I can just describe it as awesome. It is not something that I ever imagined in my life I could witness. First of all, to me as a person, as I said earlier, ministry was not a thing for me. And so the first days of our ministry, as the first lady of the ministry, I actually, I wanted to be a backbencher. But you can't be a backbencher when there are 3 or 4 people. It is not possible, and being the first lady. But one of the things that I saw is the ministry transforming my confidence, giving me a purpose and a reason. And I remember a few years down the line, God ministering to me in this Bible verse from the book of Habakkuk 2, verses 2 to 3, that says that write your vision in bold letters. Make it plain so that even when a herald is running, he can run with the message. And therefore, I sat down and told God that I actually needed a purpose in this ministry. And that's when the Women of Inspired Destiny was born. And through Women of Inspired Destiny, I have seen women being transformed from a state of being hopeless, a state of being in disbelief, to a state of a place where someone can become a minister, somebody can become a leader. I always say there's this particular deacon, she's a deacon now. When she came, and we were very few of us, and there's no much, myself and I, we couldn't do much because we didn't feel like we had that capacity to do. But today I see her leading our ushers and protocol team, being in forefront. She's actually a pillar in the ministry. And her life has been beautified. Have seen her children join college, finish school, and great things happening even in her personal life. And I have seen many people being transformed. Our church, if I may maybe delve into the mission of the church. The vision is to make disciples of Christ by taking the gospel to the world. And how we do this is through our mission is to restore the destinies and dignities of people through the word of God. And part of the restoration and capacity building I have seen is especially to the young people. The young people who joined us at the beginning of the ministry. Some of them did not even know how to go through school, finish. And I have seen some finish, join, reputable careers like engineering, and getting married, having a life. Some of them were orphans. They didn't have anywhere to look up to. And when they joined us, I remember Pauline Mwarabu teaching them and telling them to see what he does and replicate that. So it was like he's pointing them to Christ and teaching them to be responsible, teaching them the gospel of diligence in whatever you're doing. tent making and all that. And I have seen a number. There are so many that we have been able to mentor, and the ministry has really impacted on their lives to the extent that some of them now, they are working for reputable organizations. They are doing great businesses. Some of them, we had this particular case of a lady who had given up in getting married, and the years were, moving, seeing her walk down the aisle. I mean, the Lord has done so much. The church also has had an impact within the community where we operate, especially through the Women of Inspired Destiny. There's a time we've visited Langata Women Prison, the maximum prison, where we were focusing on mothers who have been sentenced with their children. And basically, I never knew that actually there are children in prison, not because they have committed any crime, but either when their mothers were sentenced, they had very young babies that could not be left alone, and maybe they didn't have anyone to leave them with, and others gave birth in prison. And it pained me to see that sometimes even basic things like diapers, milk, small things, sometimes they are not able to afford. And we were able to meet them and donate a number of items. And 2 years down the line, I met someone in Nairobi. She stopped me. And when you are stopped in Nairobi, you don't stop, because venye Nairobi iko. And then she said, "Pastor, you came to give us Christmas in Langata prison." And of course I stopped. And this woman just said, "Thank you, I'm out, and I appreciate that you could do such kind of an act." So we have also impacted the neighboring community. And there's much that we are also going to do for the communities, because a church is a destiny helper to the community. We have also had impact online, given that our services are, live. We've been able to reach people all over the corners of the world. We have people who every Sunday they join us from America, from Asia, from Middle East, all over Africa, and we are grateful that through this ministry, God has transformed lives. Well, nobody likes talking about the challenges. This morning I met someone, and I invited them for our 10th year anniversary. And for some reasons, he started asking me questions about the church. And one of the questions that he asked me is whether we have received any negative feedback concerning the church. And I was telling him that there's nothing like negative feedback. Every feedback is meant to make you improve, is meant to push you to the next level. And therefore, challenges are part and parcel of life. And a church as an institution is dynamic, because church has different aspects. There's a spiritual aspect of the church, there's the community aspect of the church, and there's the organization aspect of the church. And in most cases, challenges especially, they hit the community aspect and also the organization aspect of the church. And one of the biggest challenges that we have faced as a church, which, as I said, it was a good challenge, is sometimes back during the Corona period. I don't know whether you can remember when the church was online, and the government through the Interfaith Council had released a circular requesting the church to broadcast their services live. And there was a maximum number of people who could attend in person, basically the crew that would broadcast, which would be less than 15 people. And this particular time, it was Resurrection Sunday. You can imagine Resurrection Sunday, and we were talking about Easter. Jesus has risen, and we were celebrating the victory. And then we were invaded by the police. We actually told them, we informed them that we were not more than 15, but of course when government comes in, you give in. It was a challenge to us because we really didn't know. We have never been in trouble with the government or with the police. We really didn't know how to handle. But this became the greatest blessing of this church, because as the services were going live, the cameras were live, and everything was broadcasted. And within a split of a second, we were trending all over. and Christ was made known, and through that incident, the gospel was preached. And I will echo the words of Paul, who says that people preach out of different motives. There are those ones who preach out of selfish motives. There are those ones who teach out of conviction. There are those ones out of pride and all that. But he concluded that and said that in all, Christ is preached. So that challenge, all in all, we thank God that it happened, because the church was made known. The other challenges that we have faced is it's just the normal challenges, the challenges of growth. Sometimes you grow too fast than the infrastructure, and you need the finances to be able to, expand, do this and do that. The other challenges, I don't know whether this is a challenge, but one of our pillars, one of our core values, not pillars, one of our core values is excellence. And if you look at our sanctuary, if you look at the quality of our media, broadcasts, praise and worship, there's a certain standard that we have maintained, and simply because God is a God of beauty. He's an awesome God, and God loves beauty. God is a God of quality. If you look at what he created, the creation, it is in a kind of an order. Even those people who have been, trying to, study the earth and study the universe, they have concluded that there's a certain order that exists. There's a harmony. There's the way things relate, planets relate. There's a way the sun governs during the day, the moon governs during the night. There's an order. And so we also feel that we need to maintain that order that, God loves. And sometimes the standards are too high. I would say the standards sometimes are too high, that when you become the leader of standards, you can't go back. And that continuous improvement is something that the church as an organization, sometimes it's a challenge to us to be able to bring the right, ingredients to what makes a church and what makes Djec. Yeah. 10 years is such a long time. I was looking at my photos that I took 10 years ago and I was like, for real, I was a baby. How did I even become people's mom in church? How did even people trust me? But I am encouraged to know that God does not call the qualified, but he qualifies the called. And he works with those who take heed or answer the call. So I just happened to be somebody who, answered the call of God. And so when we began, we just began, basically. We didn't have any departments. But the first department, I think, if my memory serves me well, was the Sunday school ministry. And we didn't have proper teachers qualified to do that. But I remember one of the pastor's spouse. Now he's a pastor, Pastor Ken Nyonje. He just volunteered to become a Sunday school teacher. That time we didn't even have children's ministry as we call it today. We had Sunday school, and basically we didn't have a class or a venue for them, so they would meet under a tree, and when it rained, then we would not have any Sunday school. We've grown now. The children's ministry is big. It has a pastor. It's led by a pastor who is also a qualified teacher, and a teacher that has been accredited by TSC as a teacher. And she's also a pastor, Pastor Rachel. And within the children ministry, we have 3 major classes. We have the toddlers class, that is those PP2 going downwards, and then we have the Sunday school, the original Sunday school, that is of ages from grade 1 all the way to 12 years. We call them the Royal Eaglets. And then we have the teenagers, the Royal Teens, from the age of 13 all the way to the age of 19, or after they're done with high school, where now they graduate to the youth ministry. So the second department that was born was the women ministry. Tulikuwa tunaita wa mama basically, and one of our pastor's wives, Sylvia, and I were leading this group, and we were learning on the move. And sometimes women would come with problems larger than life, and we didn't know what to do. And 5 years later, when the Lord, when I prayed that God may give me a purpose, and the vision for Women of Inspired Destiny Wide was born, then the women ministry was properly constituted. Today we have a council that lead the ministry, and the ministry is strong. It's one of the strongest ministry we have. I will talk about Void later, maybe as Void. But we also have the other department that was born shortly after was the youth ministry, and it is one of the, I would say, dynamic and very active ministry that we have, because they even have their own services. We call them YEDs. YEDs just means young eagles, dynamites. So they are eagles, they are young eagles full of power. Dynamites, it means, dunamis means power. So we also have a very important department, and that is the Department of Men. It's one of the pillars of the church. It's led by our senior pastor, together with the men in leadership. It's called MOVA, Mighty Men of Valor. They are really mighty men of valor, and we thank God. So those are the major departments we have. Of course, we also have ministries. They are not really departments, but they are ministries within Djec, like worship team, like ushering and protocol, hospitality, and others. We thank God for that. I kind of relate future with the retirement. Retirement in this sense, for people who work like me, there's always a retirement age. In Kenya, the retirement age is 60. And we are told the first time we got into employment and we went for an induction. I remember at Kenya Institute of Administration, KIA then, now it's Kenya School of Government. And one of the things that we were told is that we needed to start planning for our retirement. And I was wondering, how do you start day one with thinking about retirement? I think I was about 29 years of age, and I was wondering, why do they want me to think about 60, age 60, almost 31 years to come. Who does that? But I've realized that you have to think about future today, because time and seasons belongs to God. He's the owner of the seasons, and for sure seasons have to come. So how do we see ourselves in future? There's one statement our father says. He usually says that JCC Ongatarongai, Djec is not Peter Mwarabu Limited. To mean that this is not a family affair. It's not a family business. But this is a multi-generational ministry. And therefore, one of the key things that we're doing because of future is raising a generation, the generation that will take over from us. And we see ourselves, having more branches, planted more churches out of JCC Ongatarongai. Currently, we have been able to give birth, I will not say plant, I will use the word give birth, to about 7 churches. The reason why I'm talking about giving birth is because there are churches that are outside our jurisdiction, because we oversee Kajiado County. But there's a church we planted in Utawala. There's a church we birthed that is in Bungoma. Yes, Bungoma. We have a church in Kakamega. We have a church within. We have Light Church in Ongatarongai. We have Kiserian. And this church, JCC Ongatarongai, we always say that we are one church in 2 locations. So we have a center also within Rongai. We have a center called Jubilation Center. And therefore we see ourselves able to make impact and give birth to more. We also want to see ourselves buying property for the church so that church can be standing on its own. Sometimes why most of our churches don't get the authority even to speak is because I've realized that many churches do not have a place that they can call their own. So those are some of the future endeavors that we have as a church. And spiritually, basically reaching as many souls as possible, creating an impact and leaving a legacy. Somebody said that it is not about the years that you live on earth, but the legacy that you leave, the impact that you make in those years. So it's not about the length of the future, but basically the impact that would be carried to the future. Yeah.